Yo, what's going on YouTube? I want to thank everybody again for 30,000 subscribers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below on what you want to see next. Today, we're talking about something that can make a pretty big difference in how your plant grows, and that's the pot size. Does putting your plant in a bigger pot automatically mean you're going to get a bigger plant? So today, I want to break down big pots versus small pots, what I've noticed, and why choosing the right size actually matters. Let's start with smaller pots. The biggest thing with smaller container is that your plant has less room for the root system to spread out. When the plant is still small, that might not be a problem at all. In fact, having a smaller amount of growing medium can sometimes make managing your watering easier because you're not trying to soak a huge container for a tiny plant. But as that plant starts getting bigger, the roots are going to start filling that space. And once you have a bigger plant sitting in a smaller pot, you might notice something else. That pot can start drying out a lot faster. The plant has more leaves, more growth, and a larger root system pulling water from a relatively small amount of growing medium. So now instead of that pot staying wet for a long time, you notice yourself checking on it more often. Now let's go into the other side with the bigger pots. The obvious advantage is more space. There's more growing medium and more available room for the root system. And if you're planning on letting a plant get pretty large, having that extra root space can definitely be useful. But here's where people can get themselves into trouble. Just because you have a huge pot doesn't mean you need to completely soak the entire thing when the plant is still tiny. Think about it, if you have a little plant with a small root system sitting in a huge container, you completely saturate all that growing medium. It could take a while back for everything to dry out, and that's why I pay attention to the size of the plant and how much it's actually drinking. So does a bigger pot actually make your plant grow bigger? I say it's better to look at the pot as giving the plant more potential room to grow. The pot itself isn't magically creating growth. You can put a plant in a massive container, but if your lighting, your watering, and environment and everything else aren't where they need to be, that big pot isn't automatically fixing those problems. On the other hand, if everything is going well and the plant is getting larger, eventually having too little root space can become limiting, so there's definitely a balance. One of the biggest differences I noticed between pot size is honestly watering. A small pot doesn't hold nearly as much water, so once you have a decent sized plant inside of it, the plant can go through that moisture pretty quickly. A bigger pot holds more growing medium and potentially more water, which means it can take longer to dry. This is exactly why I don't like watering on a strictly based schedule. I'm not saying it's been 3 days so every plant gets watered. I'm looking at the plant, I'm checking how heavy the pot feels, I'm looking underneath that top layer. Because two plants could be the same size but completely in different pot sizes, they might not need water at the same time. So which one is actually better? That really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're growing a smaller plant or you won't have a ton of space, you might not need a massive container. But if you're planning on growing a larger plant and giving it more time to develop, having an additional root space can be beneficial. The important part is matching the containers to the plant instead of assuming a bigger is always better. Because a bigger pot gives you more root space, but it also gives you more growing medium that you have to manage correctly. And a smaller pot can be perfectly fine, but as the plant gets larger, you may notice it drinking faster and eventually wanting more room. So next time you're choosing between a big pot and a small pot, don't ask yourself which pot is bigger. Ask how big am I actually trying to grow this plant. If you enjoyed this part of the video, hit that like button and stay tuned for the rest of these clips. Today we're going to be talking about 3 important training techniques that can improve your plant structure and overall growth during the vegetative stage. We got low stress training, topping, and leaf tucking. These are all techniques I use to help create a more even canopy, expose more growth sites to light, and get the most out of my plants before they enter the flower stage. For those who may not know, low stress training, or LST, is a process of slightly bending and positioning the branches to create a flatter, more even canopy. Instead of allowing a plant to grow straight upward with one dominant top, LST helps spread the plant outwards. This allows light to reach the areas that would normally be shaded, giving the lower growth sites a chance to develop into strong branches of their own. Another thing I really like about low stress training is that it's something any grower can do. You don't need expensive equipment or years of experience. All it takes is a little patience and consistency. As the plant grows, you continue adjusting your ties, guiding branches outward. Small adjustments over time can completely change the structure of your plant and help maximize the amount of usable growth throughout the canopy. Another major benefit of low stress training is airflow. When branches spread apart instead of packed up tightly together, air can move around more freely through the plant. Better airflow can help reduce moisture buildup and create a healthier environment overall. Combined with proper watering and environmental conditions, LST can play a huge role in developing a strong plant before the flowering begins. Once your plant has developed 5 healthy nodes and is growing ferociously, you can consider topping. Topping is the process of removing the main growth tip. While it may seem intimidating at first, topping is one of the most effective ways to encourage multiple main branches. Instead of focusing all of its energy on one central top, the plant redirects that energy into 5 growth points. When you combine topping with low stress training, that's where things really start to get interesting. After topping, you can continue bending and spreading out the new branches outward, helping create an even canopy filled with potential bud sites. Rather than ending up with one large cola, you'll have 5 smaller ones. You're encouraging the plant to develop multiple strong tops that all receive similar amounts of light. It's important to remember that every plant grows differently. Some plants recover quickly from training while others may need a little bit more time. That's why I always recommend paying attention to how your plant responds. Don't rush the process, let the plant recover when needed, and continue making small adjustments as it grows. As we move deeper into the vegetative stage, many growers start thinking about removing fan leaves. While there are situations where defoliation becomes beneficial, I personally like to use leaf tucking whenever possible before removing the leaves. Large fan leaves are essentially solar panels for your plant, and they play a major role in photosynthesis. Instead of cutting them off immediately, try gently tucking those leaves behind branches or underneath those growth sites. This simple technique allows light to reach lower parts of the plant while keeping those valuable leaves attached. A little leaf tucking can accomplish what you're trying to achieve without adding stress to the plant. The goal throughout veg is to create a more even canopy, maximize light exposure, encourage strong branch development, and prepare the plant for a successful flowering stage. Remember, there isn't just one way to grow. Every environment, every strain, every grower is different. The key is learning how your plants respond and making adjustments along the way. The more time you spend observing your plants, the more you'll understand what works best in your setup. I hope this video helps you out. Make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment down below on what y'all want next. We are out.